Listeners, hello, welcome back. It's the podcast after the night before, and there's some podcast news. Jack, how are you?
I'm not bad. Not bad.
Good, I'm pleased. And
that's not what I was hearing just before.
And we've also got a friend with us. You heard his voice very briefly there. Keeno's back, everyone. Hi, Callum.
Hello, everyone.
How are you?
Returned. I'm good.
Excellent.
Okay. How did you? Were you all right without me?
Just Keeno, let's just get on with this, right?
I think people said it was better.
Yeah.
I find that hard to believe.
I don't.
Let us know in the. There's a rivalry. I'm going to get involved later.
The rivalry has been confirmed with Jack's feature winning.
Well, great link. Speaking of features, folks, because Keeno and Jack are back, I'm going to be honest, I've not put a great deal of effort into this feature, but it is going to make a good point. Now, we're going to talk about England, to clarify, a little bit later on. We're going to do England last, because we figure that if we do it last, if you want to stop listening at any point, you can, either fast forward to England or just listen for 3 hours as we do our England chat. Now, boys, ready for this week's feature? Bum.
Born ready.
Okay. Who would like to go first in the feature? 2 points on offer here. Two questions each.
I'll go first.
Ready, Jack?
Yeah. I'm ready.
Here's a question. Who earns more money per year? Is it Roy Hodgson or Yogi Love? Joachim Low.
Well, Roy Hodgson's the highest paid manager in the tournament. So
Point to Jack there. Keeno, ready?
I am ready.
Keeno, who earns more money? Roy Hodgson or Vincent Del Bosque?
I think Roy Hodgson's the highest paid manager in the tournament, so Roy Hodgson.
Point. Jack, back to you. Ready?
This is going to be every manager in the tournament, and we're going to get
two questions. Jack, who earns more money? Is it Didier Deschamps or Roy Hodgson?
I'm going to have to go with... It must be... Is it... Oh, yeah, Roy.
Correct answer is Roy Hodgson. Keeno, final point available for you here. Who earns more money? Roy Hodgson or Italian manager Mr. Conte?
I heard Roy Hodgson's the highest paid manager in the tournament, so I'm going to go with Roy Hodgson.
The correct answer is indeed Roy Hodgson, so you both get 2 points there.
That feature is still more entertaining than England's performance yesterday.
It was.
Thank you. So, just to confirm that, folks, Roy Hodgson, highest paid manager in the tournament. I'll be talking about him later. But before we get there, boys, let's talk about the other less depressing knockout round games. And we'll start off, we're going all the way back to Saturday. It was Poland versus Switzerland. And, I enjoyed it. 1-1, went to penalties. We kicked off the group stages, the knockout stages very well, Jack.
We did. You always want to see some penalties. I was hoping we were going to get more. I was hoping this was going to kind of set the precedent for the rest of the kind of round, but no, it was a hard-fought game. I know in our kind of previous show we discussed how we thought this was a pretty tight game, and I think I based my prediction off being the opposite one to the one you picked.
Yeah.
It was a game that obviously it had 2 goals. I don't want to say there wasn't a ton of action, but really, I think no one's really going to remember this game for the game besides the penalty miss and also Shaqiri's goal, which was absolutely sensational.
Yeah, Shaka hit a penalty, I think still going wide actually at this point. Keeno,
actually in orbit.
We've not heard too much from you, Keeno. Would you say Shaqiri's goal is goal of the tournament? There's been some good ones.
Personally, I really, really liked Payet's first goal, but I do think because it was so sweetly hit, there was no shin involved, as there have been with a number of other high-profile overhead kicks. It was just so sweet. it has to be, I think.
Yeah, he's finally living up to the Swiss Messi tag that he got about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
He's finally doing it.
Messi famed for his overhead kicks.
Yeah, well, Blaszczykowski got the goal and then Shaqiri equalised. And then it was you could tell neither team was that bothered about going forward. I think Poland probably had a little bit more about them going forward with Lewandowski. Milik was Milik, without scoring, actually, I thought played well. He's been a little bit hit and miss in the tournament so far, but I actually thought he contributed quite a lot in this game.
Well, I think he certainly proved more dangerous so far than Lewandowski. I think, to be fair to Lewandowski, I think he's been very, very, as he's really one of the only sort of out and out big number nines not big as in stature, but big as in well known. As he's the big danger man at this tournament. I think he has been very heavily, closely marked by pretty much every team Poland have played. Milik and obviously at times Blaszczykowski have been able to exploit that quite well. But I don't think he's obviously not been on great form, not for want of trying. He's been getting in the right positions, but it's not come off for him. Hopefully, maybe it will do later in the tournament. I'm
just looking at the stats. Switzerland actually had 9 more shots. They had 29 shots in the 120 minutes.
I actually
20.
I mean, you mentioned that both teams didn't really want to go forward so much. I did think up until we got into extra time, it was sort of your typical knockout, quite a cagey game. It was not open at all.
Yeah.
I think that sort of reflected both teams in the way they play, and really quite a lot of other teams at this tournament. It's been quite a cagey.
Yeah. You say it wasn't open. I kind of agree with that, but there was a hell of a lot of shots kind of flying in.
I think he
had the most shots in 90 minutes of any match, and
39.
There was a lot of kind of speculative efforts, to say the least, and it was one of those games where both teams seemed a little bit, I don't want to say out of ideas, but they kind of blunted each other kind of sufficiently, and had penalties written all over it, I thought.
I think a lot of those speculative efforts sort of show how well both sides were defending and prepared to sort of, soak up the pressure that teams were restricted to doing that. And as I say, I think it's been a bit of a theme of this tournament as a whole, really. I don't know what you said in the shows that I wasn't here for. Obviously, I didn't listen.
I think we said it'd be this even. It was whether Poland sort of set out early to get a goal, but actually I thought both teams started. I think the first 20 minutes was quite open, and then it settled quite a bit. And then when Switzerland brought on Embolo, actually, I thought Swiss looked a lot better with him on the pitch. He was a lot more dynamic than some of their other options. Severovic, I don't know how Severovic has played so many matches, by the way.
What club is Embolo at?
Schalke, signed for Schalke.
From Basel, he's just signed 14 million or so, I think. So, that's quite a good move, though. I quite like that. I think Germany's a good place for him. I think I would have hated to see him come to the Premier League in sort of a rushed move. I think going to Schalke, he may not even be first choice at Schalke. So that's gonna be interesting. I think he's going to be a world star, though. I think he's certainly predicted to be anyway. Right, shall we move on to the gate? Well, to the team. So, let me start again. Poland went through, and they will face one of Croatia and Portugal, and that, in fact, is Portugal, which is a bit of a turn-up for the books, boys. I'll be honest. Croatia were my... we'll do predictions at the end of the tournament, but, I've been backing Croatia quite a lot, and I feel like it was unfortunate, Jack.
Yeah, it was... no one's really going to remember this game, are they?
I remember it really well, though.
Maybe they'll remember it for the wrong reasons. This game is the first game since, a major international... Well, between the World Cup and the Euros, that has not had a shot on target in 90 minutes since 1966.
I guess for people that don't know, I was doing some stuff for Football Manager during this game, giving away codes for goals. Giving away codes. I ended up giving a code away for shooting a sock into a washing machine, because it was that dull that I was just giving away for any reason. We did shot on target. We didn't have a shot on target until the goal. So, Keeno,
not a classic.
Not a classic. Do you remember anything about it?
Not particularly, no. I think it's quite funny that Portugal are into the quarterfinals only winning one game, which is
in 90 minutes haven't yet won a match, which I do like, though. I like the fact that they're through now to the quarterfinals. They still haven't won late in 90 minutes, which I guess Ronaldo played better.
Frustrated. I think he looked frustrated. No, I don't necessarily think so. I think he was far too deep at the time to try and make something happen. He got the assist, of course, for the goal, but he had the third fewest amount of passes in the side. You expect him to be a bit of a playmaker in some way.
Yeah.
And to be this player that the ball consistently comes through for Portugal. And it just looked like he was chasing it for large spells of this game.
Yeah.
I'm really not sure what to make of Portugal.
No.
Considering that, they're, as we've just said, their group phase was pretty poor. by all accounts, and they struggled and they finished third and without winning, and then they've just gone and beaten Croatia. I don't think Croatia were awful. It wasn't. I wouldn't say that Portugal capitalised on Croatia's sort of poor play, but they seem to have snuck through, and it's it's a good thing if you're a Portugal fan, and the fact that they can almost be in Italy in this kind
There's
of
something
way.
to be said about that, though, Keeno, because they had 60% of the ball, they had 17 shots, and we touched on it pre-tournament. Like, I wondered how big a factor Mandzukic would be, and we kind of pointed out, me and you together, that because we all did this group, didn't we? But that Mandzukic hadn't scored a massive amount of goals for Croatia, and we weren't sure if that would be a thing that came unstuck. Now, I think he's gone through the tournament without scoring. I don't think he got a goal. They've had 17 shots in this game. They've not had a single one on target. That is why they've not gone through. They've not tested the keeper once, which, for a team in a knockout stage of a European competition, ain't enough, boys. It's not enough. You need to have at least one, I think. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to hit the target to score to win.
Unless, of course, you are Sweden, who scored with the help of Aston Villa's Kieran Clark.
Yep.
Did you enjoy that moment, Keeno? We've not got to ask you about that yet. So
continuing form bodes well for pre-season.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Poland and Portugal then now meet at the Stade Velodrome in Marseille. Who do we have taking it, boys? Who do you fancy? I'll come straight out and say Poland. I've said it. There you are.
I really feel like this is probably going to be like the Switzerland-Poland game.
Okay.
I think penalties.
Dear.
I think tight. Probably not that many goals in it.
I've been quite impressed by Poland, actually, although they haven't really fired on all cylinders.
They've scored 3 goals in 4 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they have, in terms of getting through. Obviously, they're in that good side of the draw, and I think that they are very well organised. And if Lewandowski is allowed a little bit more room than he has been so far, although he did make 2 pretty bad misses in the Switzerland game, if he can really turn it on, I think they definitely have the sort of platform there for those flair players to fire them through. They certainly look much more organised, and sort of the game plan is much stronger than it was in, say, 2012, when I thought the pressure of the home fans sort of got on their back a little bit. But this team is matured a little bit more, fewer different players in there, but the core is very similar, and I think they could definitely get through this, and I back them.
Yeah. Could it though be, Jack? Could it be the game where Cristiano Ronaldo finally has?
Well,
is it bobbling? But is it bobbling? Because it's not shown many signs of bobbling. Like I wonder if it's going to be a bit of a damp squib. I mean, we've had Messi just retire, boys, from international football. Is Ronaldo going to do the same thing if they lose to Poland? That's the big question.
The thing you kind of alluded to, the fact that has Ronaldo really been on the boil as of late, and kind of for a player like Ronaldo is he can have awful game one game, and then the next game score a hat trick. He's got that kind of quality, and he has that much self-belief. And
is this the game, Jack? Is this the game?
No.
Okay, so are you saying Poland?
I don't think he had the game last time, and they managed to beat Croatia.
Yeah.
Oh, so what are you saying? I feel like you've left it quite open.
I'm thinking a Portuguese win on penalty.
Okay, so they will draw another game
with maybe a 1-1.
Okay, 1-1. Keno, Portugal or Poland?
Poland, as I said, I think they
so 2-1 in favour of the Poles.
But I will qualify by saying that Ronaldo is sort of the ultimate kind of wild card in the sense that if
it is a cop out. He's right, Keno. It is a cop out.
But it's true though. He could win the game in 10 minutes.
Basically, both teams have got stars, and we haven't seen anything from either. We've not seen that much from Lewandowski. We've not seen that much from Ronaldo. I mean, to say we haven't seen that much from Ronaldo, we have seen him score 2 in a game. But you see, are you okay there, Jack? Are you throwing things?
Yeah, sorry. I am throwing things.
Okay.
I'm getting a bit annoyed with Ronaldo. I'm just hoping he can perform better.
Good. We'll move on to Wales, Northern Ireland, which was just quite fun to watch as a neutral before England had played. I quite enjoyed it. It was just a bit of... There was quite a nice camaraderie about the game. It was quite... Someone compared it to a championship match, which, I mean, Keno, you'll be able to confirm next season if it was indeed like a championship.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, please do.
I'll report.
I mean, was it like
back
Villa this year? That's a benchmark.
Yeah.
Well, with a game like that, I think lots of people expected Wales to win because of their X factor. I don't think the Macaulay own goal was necessarily the planned X factor. And we'll start with a bit of credit to Northern Ireland, who I think played really, really well. They played like they have done in the rest of the tournament and made it difficult for Wales.
They did, and I think that was exactly what Wales knew would happen. And I think Northern Ireland did pretty well. Didn't threaten with a huge amount of chances. They had one very good one in the first half, which I think I forget who had the shot. Was it Dallas?
Who was he playing on the left?
In the centre. So left to centre, possibly on the left.
He played very well, I thought, actually. I thought he was one of their better players.
But he sort of it was a great passing move that opened up this chance, and he sort of sliced it a bit to the near post when I think if he'd have connected well with his left foot and hit it towards the far post, it could have really troubled Hennessy. But they didn't create a lot of chances. But I mean, we sort of expect this with Northern Ireland, but they were very solid. They had a lot of energy. And to be honest with you, while Northern Ireland were good, I think Wales handled Northern Ireland pretty much spot on. I was very impressed with them, and it was a really professional performance, I think, from Wales all round.
Yeah, I think Wales obviously got beat by England and then bounced back very well against Russia.
The kind of professional performance that, as an England fan, I would absolutely kill for.
Save it.
They handled it perfectly.
Save it. Yeah, they go through then, Jack. Bale didn't quite get the goal, but does Bale get the assist for that?
Yeah.
Is that how that works? So he's still leading the Golden Boot then, Bale.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey. So they go through, and they will meet. I've just lost my thing. Who do they meet? They meet someone Belgium, don't they? Because Belgium beat Hungary. Now, listeners, I predicted that Belgium would set records in this game and beat Hungary 6-0. I must say, actually, Hungary played quite well up until the fact that Belgium scored 4, but they weren't outclassed for that long. But then when they were outclassed, it was pretty demoralising from a Hungarian perspective. But they've done well to get to the knockout rounds. I'm sure they'll be pleased with that. Belgium finally started to look like a team that could win this, Jack.
Yeah, they've been getting there, haven't they? Now this Belgium side, it has the quality on paper. There's just always been this element of a question of, can it turn up? And do I think that this game is a real indicator of quality? Perhaps not. But then you look at the potential draw they've got. They've got Wales in the next round. That's a lot easier than a lot of other teams' draws. The quarter-final, and you just wonder how far can this Belgian team go, because I could see them reaching the final based on their bracket, and particularly based off this performance here. Hazard ran the show. He was absolutely superb, and if Eden Hazard could do that in the bigger games, which is something we've not seen for Chelsea this year, but maybe we did towards the end of the season, they've got kind of that X factor, a bit like Bale for Wales in Hazard, but I just think that Belgium side, it just has so much quality oozing through it that it has potential to go a long way in a tournament when really you look at all the teams. I don't feel like there's any teams that are suddenly standing out as clear kind of favourites.
There is a lot of quality in the Belgium team to the point where they don't really have to play too well, and they can sort of rely on one of the stars, be it De Bruyne or Hazard or Lukaku, to create a goal out of nothing and win a game. But I do think that while Belgium, I agree, could certainly get to the final, I think tactically they're limited because the manager is not up to par. I don't think that. I think that will be where, if they play a good team. Take even Italy with Conte. I think if Conte goes up against Wilmots, I think Italy.
Well, we've seen it, haven't we? We've seen it. We've seen it in the group stages, and that is the fear for Belgium. That while on their side of the bracket, as Jack points out, I think they're definitely the favourites on that side. Poland and Portugal, you'd probably expect them to beat. Wales, for all of Gareth Bale's qualities, you'd expect them to beat. On the other side, though,
although it has to be said, Wales took 4 points off Belgium in qualifying. And they know the team very well. They know a lot of the players, and they may know how to get
England
a
didn't
result
lose in
against them.
qualifying. Look what
I think, but I think if Belgium get into this groove, then we're going to it never really quite happened for them in the World Cup. If they get into this groove now in a tournament where they're going to be quite comfortable, it's not like they're going to play any teams that will be a real shock factor to them. I think they'll be able to manage with all the teams left in their bracket. But then you look at the other side, and you look at Deschamps, and you look at Jogi Löw, and you look at Conte, and you think, actually, there's 3 men there that will be able to outthink Belgium, given the opportunity. And I think that will be the interesting crunch time there. If they get to the final, which I think is at this point largely expected, will they then come unstuck against a smarter man, essentially? Because I think Wilmots comes under quite a lot of criticism from Belgian fans in terms of not quite being there. I mean, I know a manager like that. We'll talk about him later. Shall we? Okay, I'm sorry, listeners. I can't help it. All right, I'm like Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm boiling. I'm bubbling under. You wait. So Wales, Belgium. Are we expecting a Belgian win, Jack?
Yeah.
Keeno? Sorry, Jack. If you want to say something more about that.
I was just going to say we've seen kind of two different Wales kind of so far in this cup, and the one against Northern Ireland really didn't impress me that much. If I'm honest, I thought Northern Ireland were the better side.
It's fair, Keeno.
I think.
Oh.
I really want the Wales fairy tale to continue.
Do we want? Can I just say, as England fans, do we now want Wales to win this? Because I think I probably do.
Definitely.
I mean, I want Iceland to win it because they're my second team.
Are they now your second team, or were they your second team?
They were my second team. I feel like I announced that in one of the podcasts that we did.
So listeners, check it.
I definitely did. Just for the record.
Who are you going for, Keeno?
As I say, I think that Wales, from what I've seen, have one of the best team ethic and spirit
You
sound like Chris
almost
Coleman.
any 11.
I can see what he's doing here. You sound like Hungary fans.
No, and I think they can do it. And I think that the as I said, those results in qualifying and having played Belgium, I think it does count for something.
Yeah.
And I really think they can go on to do it. And in Gareth Bale, obviously, they have a man who is just as good, if not better, than anyone that Belgium can put out. And he can win them a game.
Can we?
And I think it's important though, and I will say that I'm not sure on the fitness of Ashley Williams because
I was going to bring this up.
He came off. Yeah, he came off the game against Northern Ireland. Well, he didn't come off, sorry, but he should have.
Yeah, he should have done
with an incredibly painful looking injury where he wasn't really moving his left arm, and he did train today.
Good.
But whether or not he will be, fully fighting fit in that game, I think it could almost swing on Williams' fitness because he is so important.
I would agree with that.
They said what his injury actually is because it almost looked like a broken arm the way he was holding.
You see. I am a cycling fan. You see cyclists hold their arm like that when they break like a collarbone or dislocate a shoulder. It's a very common injury. And when I saw him,
I thought it was
dislocated.
I thought dislocated shoulder was the most likely.
It looked really bad, and then he sort of waved Coleman away, so sort of saying it's fine. So
yeah.
I mean, it's difficult to say, but if he's okay, they have a chance for sure, and I would personally like them to do it.
Well, Chris Coleman has said that it wasn't a dislocated shoulder, so he's not said what it was, but he said it's not a dislocated shoulder, and it's just a bump. I mean, it's vague, innit? Very, very vague. Right then, let's look at the lower half of the bracket then. We'll start with Germany, Slovakia, and I'll be honest, boys, there's not too much to say on it. Although Jerome Boateng scored a fantastic goal to get things underway. I mean,
it was like a Modric, but not quite as
classy.
And flamboyant.
The way it dribbled into the bottom corner was kind of similar to the way Modric did. But I mean, what can you say about Germany? Really?
I mean, it's the first. I would argue to say, Jack, it's the first time we spoke about it last time. It's the first time Germany have really actually impressed us because we weren't that impressed with their group stage. Yeah, they'd won 2 games, drawn 1, and got out with 7 points, same as Poland. But we weren't overly impressed. And although Slovakia, I mean, I don't think they're particularly good. Germany, like obviously Slovakia had beaten them going into the tournament. So I'm sure in the back of German minds there was this little thought of, okay, we know that these are capable. We've got to make sure that we play better than we did. And it's amazing to think. I think it was 3-1 Slovakia, that Germany game.
It was.
I mean, having seen Slovakia in this tournament, I don't know how that happened. I mean,
Germany lost to Republic of Ireland.
This game really kind of showed the difference between a top European side like Germany and England. Germany went out there, they had a penalty that they missed, they gave Slovakia a chance. Boateng scored a beautiful goal, and yes, Slovakia were playing kind of catch-up in this game for large spells, but the Germans just showed their efficiency and class.
To me, no, don't say the EU.
I'm allowed to say efficiency. German efficiency.
Oh my God!
It's become a cliche. I bet they love it.
I mean, we'll get on to England, but it's sort of, we're talking about this game, and the comparison that Jack makes isn't a terrible one because it just showed to me. Obviously, we talked about Germany losing prior to the tournament against this same team. It is all in the head in tournament football because Germany knew. Compared to England, who clearly panicked when they went a goal down, Germany, although obviously they didn't concede from the get-go, and even after Ozil missed the penalty, there was total confidence and sort of assuredness from every player in that team that eventually the opportunity would come.
Yeah.
And many of the things they were doing in the Slovakian half, sort of when they were camped on the edge, were quite similar to the way that England was playing, but the mental side of the game and in this tournament, it just was clear that when people talk about a tournament side, you can see that in this game in particular, Germany just had it, and it was the confidence that obviously England and I think France to a little bit as well. We'll talk about them. They struggled. I think they lack, and that's why they're my favourites for it, I think.
Ooh.
And they showed it in this game.
A shout there, everyone. A shout from Callum Keane. Okay, well, no, I think that's fair. I was impressed with Germany, as I say, maybe for the first time in this tournament. They've got sterner tests coming up, though. And in a rematch of the 2012 final, Italy versus Spain, it was this time
the
Italy.
Games are heating up, aren't they? They're really heating up.
Well, Italy-Spain was a very curious game. Me and Jack were very complimentary of Conte in the group stage. Just we thought he played, especially the Belgian game, particularly well. Were you with us for that game, Keeno? I don't think you were. I think you were.
Possibly.
I can't remember.
No. I don't.
Either way, Conte.
But I agree.
Conte played so well. Like he played the team as well as he played the actual match against Belgium so well, and he did the exact same thing against Spain. And actually, this might have been. I'm going to say now, boys. This might have been my most fun match to watch in the tournament so far because of how good Italy were.
I think I agree with you. Actually, I really enjoyed England Wales for the drama, but I think in terms of pure tactical quality, I think this game from both sides as well, because it was a clash of styles. It was fantastic to watch.
Well, we obviously talk about, Jack, I'll come to you on this. We obviously talk about the England disappointment, but is the Spain disappointment that much worse? Now, I know they're playing Italy, and I know Italy are a very capable side, but for the Spanish, who had a very poor World Cup, they now come into this and go out of the round of 16. There's going to be a lot of question marks over this Spanish team.
Perhaps I feel like it would be very harsh.
Is it the end of an era, Jack?
The era ended 2 years ago, if I'm on it. I feel like right now that actually the expectations probably aren't as high as people bet they are. I know we hear all the stuff of they've not lost a European Championship game in 12 years. It's like, well, they did win the last two, but 4 years is a very long time. And
I think I do kind of agree with Jack about this Spanish era, because I think the symbolic kind of the way that Del Bosque went with Diego Costa in the World Cup sort of showed that the way that they could win a game from 2008, 2010 to 2012, often with, although they didn't in 08, but 10 and 12, with the sort of false nine Fabregas and this tiki-taka style that was so prevalent. I think that the way he selected Costa, and it went so bad, but we saw that had finished. And I think Morata looked so promising at the beginning of the tournament, and you thought that maybe he could be the sort of striker that would bring in those previously held values from players like Iniesta and obviously Xavi before and Xavi Alonso and etc. And sort of be able to convert that into a number 9 and play in that 11. But it didn't seem to happen, and it's just perplexing. I'm not sure how Del Bosque, how secure his job will be after this, and I think he may step down.
I think he's done.
Voluntarily.
Well, can we talk about, not often on Full Events do we go that deep into the tactical aspect of a football match, but this game in particular I thought was fascinating because I was tweeting this out throughout. In the current footballing climate, there's almost every single top team. You look around the teams that have won Champions Leagues and won like big international competitions recently are fantastic in the transition of going from defence to attack very, very quickly. They can win the ball back and then go and be a threat on the attack. Now, the big sort of outlier in all of this is Spain. Spain are not that team, and you mentioned the fact they've played tiki-taka before, and that's been their way of doing things. And I guess the question I've got for you both is it a case of that they're not as good at it anymore? You think about some of the players that have moved on and no longer there. Xavi being like the key example of that, in my opinion.
Xavi is the key.
Yeah.
Xavi is the key to the whole thing.
But is it the case, Keeno, that they've got worse at it, or that everybody's figured out how to play against it? Because there aren't many teams now that are successful tiki-taka teams, and I'll bring you the example straight away, that the best team in transition in the Premier League this season were Leicester City, that could sit back and could go forward. A team that arguably should have won the league this year and didn't is the team that decided to play a little bit more passive, a little bit more tiki-taka-esque, and that's Arsenal. And Arsenal fans, I'm not having a go. I'm just saying that it's been proven over the last few years. You look at the top teams in Europe, like Juventus are very good at it. Real Madrid are fantastic at it. You've got Bayern Munich who are very good at it as well. These teams that move through the transition of a game, and that's why Italy won the match. because Italy knew that they could sit back and hit Spain because they know that Spain aren't going to come at any speed. If Italy attack right, they know because of the personnel on the pitch. They know that David Silva and whoever else who else played on the wide. Nolito, I guess Nolito is maybe
It was Nolito, Silva with Morata down the
but
middle.
It's not pure pace. It's like they can go forward with 3 or 4 or 5 men. They can commit those men because they know they're not going to be hit immediately.
And I
by the Spanish.
think it's clear. I agree with that. I think there are a couple of tactical points in this game that are quite interesting. Firstly, as you say, is the counter-attacking thing that we've seen in Europe for the past, as you say, probably 3-4 years. I think that the quality that teams like Real Madrid and Juventus and Atletico as well have amassed, because you have to realise that playing this counter-attacking way...
I should say, you know, on that, Atletico are brilliant at it, so you wonder if the next Spanish manager will look at that, look at what's going on elsewhere in the world, and think that's what we need to be doing. And this tiki-taka thing that was magnificently successful for them has to change. And Jack, we'll come to you. If you're a Spanish manager now, Jack, what would you do?
Change the centre of midfield, if I'm honest. I think that's where they've lost it.
So what sort of players are you looking to incorporate into this?
I think you've got to look for athletes. No, I mean, Fabregas is 29, but he's never been super mobile midfield. You've got Busquets playing centre defensive mid, Iniesta alongside. That is such a slow midfield. There is no box-to-box element in that side for me. And I think that's a massive thing. You look at a lot of different teams. For example, Italy in this game... They played with it. What's the winger called? He normally plays as a winger. They played him down the middle for this game. It begins with a G. Name's gone completely from my head.
Giaccherini.
Giaccherini,
but
they
played it.
Sunderland's finest.
They played him more down the middle this game, and it kind of just worked for them. And I think the issue for Spain here is they're trying to play this style where they really probe with their centre of midfield. But you look at the rest of the teams that are kind of doing well in Europe, and they all have kind of players that are mobile and get around. I think that's actually one area where perhaps France have an abundance of it. I think Belgium, again, they have a lot of these really mobile centre mids.
All about the transition, as Ben said. I think
but Belgium are another team, though, that are very good in transition. If you can
Spain,
sorry to go on that.
No, go on.
Because we spoke about Belgium before. That Belgium are very good in transition. There's one team that were very good at stopping them within that transition, though. Because it's interesting that Italy can actually play in 2 styles. They can play, and this is what makes them so dangerous under Conte, and why Chelsea fans should be very excited. Is that against Belgium, Italy thought, if you can't do this transitional play against us, if you can't attack us to the point where we're actually exposed by it, then you're going to struggle. And they did that against Belgium very successfully. And then when it came to Spain, they said, well, you can have the ball and we will attack you because we're not worried about you coming forward to us. We're defensively so good that if you can find a hole, well done to you. Because I don't think you'll find one.
As I mentioned at the beginning, I think there's 2 points from this. The first is that Spain are stuck between 2 eras, I think, and 2 styles of play.
But are they, though? I don't know if I agree with that. What is the second era?
I think they are, because I think they have the personnel, many of the same personnel that were so successful in playing in the tiki-taka style that won them those tournaments. But football at this top level, it's more of a choice, the way that the top teams have decided to play, as you say, in a more transitional counter-attacking style. Spain cannot adapt to that, and I think Jack made the point about personnel. They don't have the personnel to play in this way that is almost the dominant fashion now. And maybe a few years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, those players, when Xavi and Iniesta were at their peak, they could have controlled the game and just been so good at the way they play to the point where it almost didn't matter what the other team wanted to do. They would impose their style upon them. They are not quite at that peak now. I think people underestimated at the time the amount of kind of the perfection of Spain's play, just how good it had to be and how much they had to monopolise the ball to cut out any team that wanted to hit them on the counter. And they are not just quite at that peak now. And teams, and obviously at this world class level of play, playing a team like Italy or maybe France or Belgium, even, as we said, those teams are stacked full of quality, that if you make a pass, if you're playing that way and you make 1 or 2 or 3 mistakes, you will concede 1 or 2 or 3 goals because the quality of the opposition is so big that it will happen. I think, not to make this point too long, but I just wanted to touch on the other thing on Conte. You mentioned Italy. I can't remember who it was. It was a BBC pundit. Might have been, in his infinite wisdom, Martin Keown, but he made a very good point about centre-halves.
Do you know what? That's the second time for the fan show I've said Martin Keown made a good point.
I know. I don't know what's going on, but he made a very good point about centre-halves and the fact that Italy and Conte always plays with two up front. It doesn't matter what system he's in, whether he's playing the diamond with four at the back, which is quite rare, or he'll go with his sort of classic 3-5-2. And Ramos and Piqué, I think in particular, possibly more so than any other pair of centre halves in that top tier, were not used to playing against these front two. And it was clear that Eder and Pele, they were almost Italy's two best players on the pitch, I think, in this Spain game, and they dragged them around everywhere. And playing those two up front, as maybe we saw with Leicester as well in the Premier League, it can, when you're playing against teams that for the last decade even have been learning to play against one striker and a number 10, they can't cope with it. And Conte's ability to adapt is just so impressive.
Jack, do you want to add to this?
Yeah, to an extent, I guess I agree with the whole one striker point. I think it's quite interesting with Italy, actually. It's not like they have both of their attackers kind of stand on the last man.
No, they don't. They move them around.
Pele.
Yeah.
And Eder, I really rate Eder, actually. He's impressed me this tournament. But his ability to kind of just sit a little bit deeper, it kind of creates this element of it. Did Busquets drop deeper to help with that? Or does he need to stay up? Because especially playing against a five-man midfield, I mean, Busquets has the impossible task in this game. Does he stick with the centre attacking mid, or does he try and make something happen by picking up the kind of striker and then leaving one of the centre halves free? And I think Spain really had an answer to that in some ways, and I think it was actually Eder's movement that undid Spain a lot of the time in this match.
Yeah, I think to summarise, I think Italy... Spain were quite unlucky, I think, to come up against Italy because they almost are their kryptonite in the way that Spain are not on top form but still good enough to beat many teams on the day. But Italy have the defence, the back three, and Buffon, of course, that are so good that it allows them to play with just single men out wide, the two wing backs, pack that middle, and have the two strikers to keep the centre halves busy. It was almost the perfect counter to what Spain wanted to do.
It's certainly worth mentioning that is a shift because Spain in the last 10 years have dominated Italy in most games. I think Buffon's beaten them once in 10 or something like that. It's something crazy like that. Maybe I think it might be now twice in 10. They obviously now play Germany, which I think we talked about kryptonite. It's Italy are Germany's kryptonite. I think I saw a stat somewhere. I think Italy have won maybe 8 of the last sort of 10 encounters, maybe even more so than that. They've really, especially international knockout tournaments, it's been that way.
They've played each other 8 times in major tournaments, and they have never lost. They've drawn 4 and won 4.
That's not. I think they've faced each other in the groups a few times, actually. Yeah, I think that you might be right in a tournament not that long ago. So going into this, Jack, Germany, Italy. I mean, we've seen the best of Germany. We've kind of just gone overboard on how good we think Italy are. What are you fancying?
Oh, this is a hard one.
It is very hard. This is the toughest one.
Yeah, it's kind of the immovable force meets the unstoppable object. I feel like Italy might have a problem going forward against Germany's defence. That's my worry for them. I know a lot's been made of this style of Italy. They've never lost to Germany in a major tournament. I think it's worth mentioning that I think only 1 or 2 of them have happened this millennium. Like, let's be real here. It's very different sides, and I don't think you can look, really beyond 2 major tournaments and compare how 2 sides are going to match up. I feel like for me, Germany's quality defensively should be enough to help contain them. And I know that Spain, again, they've got a very good defence themselves with Piqué and Ramos.
Yeah.
I just think having, obviously, Hummels and Boateng, and then wingers, or wing-backs rather, that can, certainly tuck in and defend quite well, in Kimmich and, is it Hector out on the left?
Yeah.
I just think Belgium are going to win. I just feel like for Germany, they've just got that little bit more about them. Kind of going forward, and that's kind of my gut instinct. I thought Draxler really impressed me for Germany.
Yeah,
and
the 2 teams that we talk about the kind of arcs of teams that Spain have come down from the peak and are now sort of on the way down. I think Germany playing a not dissimilar way to Spain at their peak, probably with a little bit more penetration. They play with Gomez. They are good enough, I think, to be able to do to Italy what Spain couldn't quite do, because they weren't, quite there.
So, Jack, are you saying, Jack, that Germany are that literally that bit more clinical, and will be able? That will be the difference, Jack.
I think Italy might struggle to score, and I think that's the difference. I think Germany have the ability going forward to get a goal. I mean, you look at the Italy against Spain. Not to say Italy struggled to score against Spain because they scored 2, but one of them came from a rebound of what a lot of people will say is a mistake. And then the second goal just comes from overcommitting men forward. And I think Germany have the capability to shut out Italy. And they should be more than capable of getting a goal themselves.
Keeno?
As I said, I think Germany will just about have the quality to do it.
Is it time for Ben's bold prediction of the week?
I feel like if you're going to say Italy are going to win, it's not actually that bold, because I think this game could go either way.
4-1.
Oh,
Wow.
I mean, which way?
Italy. I think Germany are going to get sucked in, and then Italy are going to hit them. And then it's going to continue that Germany are going to keep pushing, and Italy will hit them, and then they'll hit them again, and they'll hit them
I just
again.
think in Khedira and Kroos in centre mid, Germany are a lot better adept to kind of protect themselves from being like that.
Maybe, but I think if Italy score early, then that will be huge, because Germany will be forced to come out. We've seen Germany in this tournament already, that if things aren't going their way, they're not that successful at just breaking it down. You think
You're envisioning a game similar to the kind of Bayern Real Madrid of a few years ago in the semi-final.
Yeah, similar to that's
Yeah.
okay. Reference going incredibly on point. Yeah, that's not dissimilar. And look, I know Germany were very comfortable against Northern Ireland. They scored one against them, and I back Italy over Northern Ireland. I just think Italy. I mean, I've done some sort of crazy shouts with each round. This shout is Italy to not just beat Germany, but beat them surprisingly convincingly. I think the back three of Italy are so good that Germany don't have enough. I don't think Mario Gomez is enough to break Italy. So I guess we'll wait and see, viewers. We'll wait and see, our listeners. Right then, shall we go to so Germany, Italy. You're both going Germany, and I've neck out on the line Italy right there. I'm on board. Right then, Jack, we'll come to you. France 2, Ireland 1. Norwich couldn't quite do it this time, although the penalty got hearts racing, didn't it? Good grief.
I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better start for Ireland, could you? They almost scored too soon in this game, and I hate that cliche so much. But playing against the host nation,
I hate seeing that.
It was always, you always felt like Ireland were going to need another goal. You really didn't feel like for 88 minutes they were going to be able to shut out a French side, which has looked a little bit kind of not at their best, but I feel like with the fans behind them, they really kind of galvanised themselves in the second half, and Griezmann kind of just went off and showed a bit of a finishing masterclass in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you wonder, like, all the goals were scored by 61. Griezmann got 2 in 5 minutes, 57 and 61. You wonder, though, if the game, like you mentioned, sort of the cliche of scoring too early, you wonder if it was 0-0 at like an hour, how the game would have changed, how things would have been influenced. Obviously, when Ireland got the red card, Keeno, that was pretty much that. France were very, very dominant from that point on.
It was, and I think you also got to factor in, and I think this is just an unavoidable fact of tournament football, that Ireland only had 4 days to prepare for that game. And it showed, even though they did go down to 10 men, it still showed that they were a bit leggy, and France had a full week to prepare. I think that really does make a big difference, and we kind of saw it. I think that the red card is something that I wanted to talk about in this game. I'm not sure he has to do it, and we see it quite a few times.
There's new rules, aren't there, as well?
I think he should probably back his keeper there. I think Randolph had a pretty good game, and it was probably worth... I mean, it's a split-second decision and a kind of knife-edge call, but I would have liked to maybe see him stay on the pitch and take that chance with backing the keeper.
It's a very of-the-moment situation, though. If you don't bring him down and they score 3, you might say game over. I mean, he gives away a free kick. They don't convert it, obviously, but being down to 10 men against an already quite dominant French side that have just sucker punched you to the extreme with scoring 2 goals so quickly... I wonder if Duffy just thought, you know what, let's just damage limitation. I'm going to have to take this.
I mean, one of the issues I have with that is that if he takes him down in the box, he just gets sent off.
Well, is that strictly the rule? Is that strictly the rule that it has to be? Because I don't know if is it a penalty situation or is it a goal scoring opportunity?
Yeah, it has to be in the box. Basically, if you don't know about this rule, essentially UEFA have introduced a rule whereby if you go to make a last-ditch tackle and the referee deems you've attempted to play the ball and take the man down in the box, the other team get a penalty, but the defender can only be given a yellow card and can't be sent off. And in this situation, if he flies in and it's in the box and the ref thinks, well, he's tried to play the ball there, he stays on the pitch. And maybe they go 3-1 up but Ireland still have an extra round. I mean, I think at the point of the game it was at, really, it's kind of, I feel like 2-1 and down a man, or 3-1 with 11 men. Like, I feel like Ireland were probably out of it either way, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think the French were almost a bit too strong. For there was a long time, though, like throughout the first half, you thought, if Ireland just can keep this going to like the final 10 minutes and then you see one of these sort of classic international teams, underdog international teams, just hold on and hold on and hold on, and see if they can hold it off. I did wonder if that would happen, but they say Griezmann scored 2 wonderful goals, and that was that. And they go through. I mean, at this point, boys,
not fully convincingly. I think it's
no, not fully convincingly. The French go through. They will be playing Iceland at the Stade de France in Paris, and I think at this point, listeners, we're 45 minutes in, and we'll start things off by saying that Iceland, you were great. I've got absolutely no qualms with how they played. You're not going to make a Ronaldo comment, are you?
No,
their fans were excellent. I thought, do you know what? I love Iceland and Portugal in the final. But no, I thought their fans were excellent. I thought they played the game. I mean, we've seen teams do it already this tournament, but they played England to an absolute. We know how bad England were, right? Iceland predicted it, played it, and were better than us, essentially.
Executed
when it came down to it. And I feel like, boys, you might want to just echo the same sentiment of well done, Iceland. Jack,
well done, Iceland.
They're your boys, Jack.
I mean, they deserve to win. The better team won. The team with a game plan won. And Iceland came, they saw, they conquered, and they executed the plan that they had to perfection. I mean, they got 2 goals early on, and to be honest, England never looked like scoring from open play, and that's kind of been indicative of England's whole tournament, with the exception of the Wales game.
Yeah, now, we're at that point, listeners, that I'm sure a few of you waiting for. We got to the Russia game. That was disappointing. I mean, I'll let my feelings be pretty known. You may have just joined us at this point, flicking through, waiting for us to talk about England. Hi there. I mean, boys, who wants to go first? I've got a list. I've got some notes. I feel like I don't know whether I should go first or last.
I'll open this up by saying I'm not surprised.
Okay.
I feel like that's the simplest way to put it. I feel like throughout this tournament, England have scraped through. There was a quote that Roy Hodgson said during his press conference, and I'm going to find it because I tweeted about it. It annoyed me, this quote. And basically, the quote was, "Nothing in the first 3 games we played gave me any indication we play as poorly as we did last night." That has tipped me over. That's tilted me. We drew with Russia by virtue of scoring an absolute wonder free kick. Against Wales, we win 2-1. Granted, it could have easily been 1-1, and on another day, we would have just gone out in the group stage. The last game against Slovakia, we did nothing. We had a team that, I don't want to say Slovenia or Slovakia, awkward, and Iceland have played a similar style, but both teams, they're very much against an England. They're going to sit back and try and make something happen. So how the hell you can come into this knockout stage game and say that you had no idea that this was going to happen, no idea that this England team was going to be unable to beat down a team that was going to sit 10 men behind the ball for large spells of this game, is absolutely beyond me. And I think that is a lack of preparation. That is underestimating the other team. And I mean, the fact that he had a resignation letter ready for when he lost in this tournament. That honestly, I don't even think he should have done a press conference today. I know he didn't want to do one. I feel like, good. They stuck him in a room with kind of, some news reporters and drilled him with questions. I'm happy about that. But honestly, that guy Roy should no longer be associated with the England team in any way. There was talk of, should Roy be involved in helping the FA pick the next manager? No, don't let him near the team. Just get him out, wheel him away, and let's forget about him, because
the pre-written statement did get me a little bit. I was like, Roy, you wrote this in about 2 minutes of coming into the tunnel. This is amazing.
You know what? This is what he was doing when he didn't bring Rashford on. That 10 minutes when Rashford was warming up. That was Roy writing his speech. Let's get ourselves out of this. And it's the fact he said it 10 minutes after the final whistle. It's a very, in my opinion, that's a very cowardly way to go. Just to kind of announce in the spur of the moment.
He took questions today with Martin Glenn, but he didn't take questions in the press conference directly after the game. I do agree that I think it was a little bit. I'm not sure it's kind of this sort of brave and decent man action that I think a lot of people said it was. It seemed as though he was trying to avoid sort of initial in the moment questions. You talk about Roy, and I think that this game. I mean, Ben, you can sort of get going and I'll bounce.
I'm seething, mate. I'm seething.
Can I say one more thing and then I'll shut up for 5 minutes and you guys can shout. The thing that's annoyed me is the fact that in the press conference today, Roy Hodgson has said, I don't know why I'm here. I'll tell you why you're here, Roy. Because you've been brought in to do a job. You've won 3 games at major competitions in your tenure at the club, at the nation in 11 games. We had massive expectations going into this. We've taken on an Icelandic team, which I think a lot of people, myself included, thought, no chance. Sorry, Iceland, you're not going to go for them. They've proven everyone wrong. The reason you're here is because you've got questions to answer, not read off a fucking hymn sheet and then say, oh, I've said my piece now. Because people have questions and they deserve to be answered. Because the performance that I saw from that England team against Iceland, one of the worst performances by a football team I've seen, full stop. It was awful. There was no spark, there was no catalyst, there was no game plan. And yes, the players didn't perform, but Roy Hodgson had a chance to change the game, a chance to motivate the players at half time, and he did fuck all.
Hashtag explicit.
Sorry.
Right, Ben, what did you think about England's game?
56 games in Roy Hodgson's tenure, which is the most since Ericsson, and before that, Bobby Robson. He's had 3 international tournaments to get it right. He's been able to watch not only the current squad come through, but even like the previous to that. You could see the squads come through. He's been around English football long enough to know. He's been at Liverpool, I hate to say it, Fulham and West Brom. He'd been around, he'd known. He had enough knowledge, you'd hope, enough background to be able to take the team that he's got at his disposal this time round and produce better. We've seen them play better. Okay, now, yes, the players come under some sort of blame. They could have played far better throughout. But as Jack points out, in his international career, he's beaten Sweden 3-2. I mean, I remember the game very well. Walcott's deflected effort. Welbeck with a flicky winner. Do you remember it? Euros 4 years ago? Lucky in that game. I think England fans afterwards felt lucky. They thought, do you know what? We've come out of that and we've been fortunate. Game after that, Milner hit a ball in. Rooney from 2 yards out after a suspension. We go through. A piss poor performance against Italy. I mean, played okay defensively, but piss poor. Again, played a team that we should have known far more about. Could have even beaten them within the game. Sterling at that moment, but not good enough. You'd think then that at the World Cup, as difficult as the group is, with Uruguay, Italy, and sort of a wild card in Costa Rica, who actually performed very well at the tournament, he would have improved what he had done in the previous tournament. He was sort of shafted in quickly in replacement of Capello, and he kind of got that tournament as a bye.
I sometimes feel, Ben, I don't know, I'm kind of just to interject the sort of the monologue, like, I sometimes feel that I think people throw criticism and put the responsibility of England's failings and other teams as well directly at the manager's door.
This is just part one of the 3 people that are getting blamed. But
oftentimes, but I think it's not always fully founded. I think sometimes managers unfairly get the blame for the team's failings. I think this time a little bit different, because what we saw, and obviously we've had a root and branch review of English football basically for the last decade. A lot of the things were in place, and the squad that came through and Hodgson took to this tournament had been developed in the last decade. A lot of them were very young, as we said, second youngest team. I think he had the tools there. And the results were so poor that I think it is fair this time to put 60, 70, 80% of the blame for this tournament in particular at the man, not just Hodgson but the other staff at their doorstep, because I feel that it is them who have
they're not football
truly
experts
failed
though,
in this
the
tournament.
What I would say, and then obviously we go into the tournament against Italy. Sorry, I'm going back. Italy, Uruguay, and Costa Rica. We were out of the tournament in 5 days. 5 days we're out of the tournament. You thought, okay, do you know what, Roy? You want to keep your job, show that you're worth it, play a bit of an experimental side against Costa Rica, but win that game and prove to us that you are worthy of wearing the tag that comes with being England manager. And we drew 0-0. He played a substandard team. We drew 0-0. We went out of the tournament with 1 point. And at that point right there, you should have gone. And Greg Dyke gave it it's a long-term project. Yeah, it's a cheap project compared to the managers that maybe would take that job. Greg, that's why. And there you are. You think, okay, fine, give him 2 more years. Qualified superbly. Shock horror. We always fucking do that. Easy. The qualification, as Jack pointed out earlier, shows no bearing into going into the tournament. But
he beat San Marino twice.
Well, the job is to qualify. Like, it doesn't matter how you qualify. just get into the tournament. And this year, again, we had a relatively easy group, and Hodgson proved that when the pressure's off, much like every England team, pressure's off for him and the players, we go through it without a problem. We know we've got 10 games, easy. We then come into this tournament, and I've been very critical of Russia and Slovakia, and really it's nothing against those teams. But we have a squad that should not just be like 1-0ing Russia and Slovakia, beating them by 2 or 3. I don't care how they set up, because we've just seen Germany do it against Slovakia, and Germany are better than us. Yeah, I've got no doubts. But we should be beating Slovakia no matter how they play, because we should be prepared for how they're going to play. It wasn't a shock. Like, it wasn't this, oh god, we didn't realize they've set up so defensively. With Russia, we knew how they were going to play, and we drew 1-1. Those two performances, if we could have sacked him during the group stage, we'd have sacked him during the group stage, because the performances were so shit. You then come up against Iceland. Now, I don't really give a shit about Iceland's population. I mean, they've got some very good footballers that, when you combine them all together, play very, very well. I say very good footballers. They've got some good footballers. They haven't even got very, very good footballers. They've got Gylfi Sigurdsson, who used to stand out, and the rest of them. To come away from this game losing 2-1, and it's not the result, it's the manner in which we've seen the result.
I think the manner in which we struggled to break down any of the teams that just decided to sit back against us in this tournament. It's the lack of ideas. Going
into the game, there's been reports come out that there's been players... I should say, listeners, I'm so sorry if you don't want to hear this, but it's coming out. I've got to get this out once every 2 years. There's been reports come out that Sterling, senior players thought Sterling shouldn't have played. The team that started the game wasn't too disappointed about. It's that you go 2-1 down. Joe Hart's made a mistake. I think he was the first to sort of step up and say, "Look, I've fucked up." You have Joe. You can't. That's got to stop now. Like
Ben, he sings the national anthem really loud.
That's great. And going into the tournament, he's one of our better players. And we even said about it. And people will, because of these two mistakes, it'll be classed as, oh no, he can't be. Joe Hart genuinely still is one of our world class players. Like, you've seen it for City. Yeah. He's performed at very high levels against Barcelona and the like. Like, we've seen him play well. Just don't judge Joe Hart for these two performances. But I will say that if Joe Hart doesn't, there's an arrogance that comes with Joe Hart, which is great when you're winning, and when you're not winning, it looks naive. And Joe Hart, Gary Cahill, Chris Smalling, Eric Dyer, those 4 sort of core defensive rocks that you'd hope you'd get performances from, did not perform well enough in this tournament, especially against Iceland. And we can come and talk, like, all I've heard in the last few days is Harry Kane this, Raheem Sterling that, Wayne Rooney this, Dele Alli was rubbish. If the defensive core can't keep out Iceland, or Russia for that matter, then we've got a problem. The Gareth Bale free kicks an anomaly. We kept it out against Slovakia because they literally didn't do anything. So it's quite easy to defend when you've got nothing to do. And it comes down to the system. Would other managers have got more out of this team?
Precisely,
yes.
I think it comes down to the preparation of the playing staff, from people like Ray Lewington, Gary Neville, Hodgson. He made it very clear about how we sent 5 scouts out to watch Iceland earlier in the tournament.
If we did, what are they doing? I think Alan Shearer made the point, right?
As I said,
with the throw-ins, with the throw-ins, right? If you've sent scouts out, that is like literally the first thing you report back. That when the ball comes in,
they like a long throw in.
But when the ball comes in, it's not like it was said on. I think it was said on the Match of the Day highlights with Shearer and Ferdinand. When the ball comes in, it's not the first ball. If you don't win that, that's fine. Make sure you react to the second ball. And Kyle Walker, a bit of a shame really. He's had quite a good tournament when he's played. Is caught napping, and they're in. And it's from that point, from the second goal that goes in, that Hart fumbles though. So that goal happens. Then we have the fumble from Hart. From that point on, I mean, what minute was that? Just to clarify, has anyone got it in front of them?
The goal.
The second Iceland goal. Okay. Oh, that makes me more angry because it's earlier than I thought. For 70 minutes, then. For the rest of the game, our manager is a fucking disgrace because he does absolutely nothing to change it. Bringing Jamie Vardy on, by the way, is not an attempt to change it. It is a panicked reaction to, oh shit, where's our other striker? Let's just throw him on. At the end of the game, and I tweeted this out as well, Rashford was on the pitch. Kane was on the pitch, Sturridge was on the pitch, and Vardy was on the pitch.
And Cahill was filling in as an auxiliary centre forward.
If that is the situation, whether it's for 20 minutes or for 5 minutes, Roy, you are fucked up to degrees that you couldn't have even imagined. Like, what is the logic of bringing on Rashford with 5 minutes to go? What's the open that happens? If we then do score and send it to 2-2, what's the tactical plan from that point onwards? Like, it's disgraceful. I think he has ducked the media a little bit because after his statement last night, yeah, I'm sure he is gutted that he got knocked out. But there's also thousands of England fans that have paid to go see them in France and spent a lot of money to watch that England team.
Yeah,
to be delivered that, and that is not good enough. It is despicable. I think he's allowed to get away with it.
I think the reaction of the England fans was pretty much, as expected and totally justified because the it was almost the I worry about how the players are being mentally prepared and
Keeno, mate, they're not being mentally prepared. That is literally the problem. They're not being prepared for this situation, and they haven't been prepared for it for 10 years.
Because the panic after Iceland scored, it was almost as though they were wired into Twitter, like they could see what everyone was saying about them in real time. Because the moment that Iceland scored that goal, it was so jittery, and I think that the buck does have to rest with the manager and also with the captain, Rooney, because you know that you have the quality. You are playing a team, as you said, that a country that has no professional teams on their mainland, and they are scattered around the lower leagues of Europe. You know that you're better players, but to be able to, as we said with Germany earlier with the Slovakia game, to be able to have the confidence and sort of tell yourselves that yes, we can do this and we know what we're doing. That comes from, as you say, all from the top. And from then, obviously, the head of the team, which is Wayne Rooney and the captain, and from players like Joe Hart as well. It's so, the leadership is so poor, and it was so evidently poor against Iceland. I think that is what capped it off for me, and made all the criticism that Hodgson and is getting, and that you've given, and Jack has given, and everyone else who sort of commented on the game. I think it is really justified this time, because it was one of the poorest England performances I've seen.
But Keeno, our expectations coming to this tournament weren't that high.
No,
the idea that we've come into this tournament and we expect too much, literally, folks listening, if you're not English, that is not true. My expectations for this tournament were to get past the group, because the group was easy to get through, to beat then the team that we got in the knockout round. We knew it would be the second place team from Group E, was it? The final group? Group F, sorry. Or a third place team, like a random third place team. We wouldn't have had that confirmed. And that is the point where we should get through. At that point, we would have had to play a team of some standard. This time around, it would have been France. And if you go out to France, you kind of go, do you know what? Host of the tournament, have some fantastic players, fair enough. But you want to see a team try hard. And that is my frustration for those that are listening. That England haven't just gone out to they haven't gone out in a blaze of glory. They've done fuck all for an hour and gone out because they couldn't score at least a penalty against Iceland. And again, as I said to begin with, it's not a slagging off of Iceland, but when you see these, and I'm going to call them what they are, these multi-millionaires not produce better for what they're like. I saw there was the guy who's the Glenn idiot? What was he called?
Martin Glenn.
Martin Glenn came out. He said, look, come on, you've got to give some respect to these players. They do this for nothing. Do this for nothing. They're paid thousands a week by their clubs. They should damn right be giving their fees to charity every time they turn up, because it should be a privilege. And too many players, seemingly in that team, take it for granted. And Wayne Rooney's had 12 years plus now to put his stamp of authority on this England team, and he's not done it. And I call for your resignation, Wayne, from England captain, because while actually I think you were one of the better players at the tournament, probably in my top 3. Now is your time to pass it on, move it down to somebody else, and say thank you very much. And sadly, I think the arrogance of Wayne Rooney is going to be, actually, I've got to set this goal tally as high as I possibly fucking can, because I don't know who might come along next. Ooh. I've got loads of ball points to make, boys. Jack?
I guess for me, my biggest frustration, the fact that we never really saw an England team of all the players playing in their best positions. The squad itself that was taken to the lacked wingers, lacked centre-backs. It was an odd squad selection. And we kind of looked at those first 3 kind of, pre-season games, and you thought to yourself, Roy doesn't really know what his best team is. You've got to try and work it out and have something that you stick to, some kind of consistency. And he's kind of just tinkered with the squad throughout this tournament. He's tried all kinds of different things. I mean, the fact he was persevering with Sterling out on the left, that's really indicative of the situation we were in. We didn't have any other wingers. We didn't have an Andros Townsend. We didn't have, a player to go out on the other wing and do something. The fact that Sterling was playing out on the left and Sturridge was playing out on the right after Royer said, we need to be wide this game.
Oh, the Sturridge on the right thing.
Right, Sturridge doesn't have a left foot. If you've ever watched Liverpool, if you watched him play for Liverpool, he just... he doesn't have a right foot. Stern doesn't have a left foot either. So why are you playing them on the opposite side?
I think the saddest thing was to watch Sturridge sort of repeatedly coming off the right and be be the one that was trying to play the through balls through to the runners like Kane and Sterling. Like, he's not that player. He should be the one making those runs, and he was the one that was being put into the position by the system to be trying to play those through. And it was incredibly frustrating to watch. He's done that for the whole tournament when he's come on, and although he did get a very good goal against Wales, it's clear that he does not function very well on that right hand side. Obviously, it was the whole reason that he left Chelsea initially, and his whole thing, come to Liverpool. Just one of the many frustrating things to watch of this England team.
The players under 25, I hope, aren't defined by this.
Yeah.
Harry Kane, Dele Alli, even Sterling, who's been around for a little while now, Eric Dyer, Danny Rose, Chris Smalling. I hope this doesn't define what they go on to be as England players, but I am fearful that it will. And the kind of thing that keeps this sort of, almost this stench of disappointment lingering around are players like Rooney hanging around. And I know people say, right, I've given Rooney a lot of stick in the past, and I have. But I think for the good of this England team, don't retire Wayne, but make a point of saying, look, I don't want to be captain. I don't think Wayne Rooney's a leader. I've never, in press conferences, I don't think, oh great, here we go, Wayne's up for it. I think he's like, okay, so this is what we've got, lots of faith in the manager. You sound like you've got loads of faith in the manager, mate. You sound pumped for it. And then he comes off after the game, well, it's not. I don't know, I've gone Geordie, but he's not bothered. He doesn't seem that bothered. And if you are raging, Wayne, I'd like to see you on the pitch getting angry. I'd have loved to see a red card from someone just to show that they gave a shit, because there was too many passengers on that pitch just being there for the sake of being there. And the problem was, Roy had no idea what to do. Bring Adam Lallana on, for goodness sake. Get Sturridge off after 50. And if it's not obvious to me and you two and everyone else sitting at home watching the game, why is the man in the stadium not like who's paid £3.5 million a year to make these decisions at this particular point? We made the point at the start, he's the most well-paid manager at the tournament. Why isn't he doing something? Like, it doesn't matter what it do, something. Don't bring Rashford on after 5 minutes. Make changes before that. Any good manager would have done. And the reason he's left, and he's lucky, by the way, he's been given the option to resign because his contract runs out, and he wouldn't have had it renewed. So this little bit of dignity he's been able to gather because he's able to resign is a joke. He should have been sacked. They should have said, no, you can't resign because we want to make a point that you're not getting your contract renewed. He's lucky. He's shit. Anyone else?
I feel that, to sort of wrap up, because I mean we've done sort of.
Oh no, sorry, I'm going to compare England to the rest of the teams in the quarterfinals in a moment. No, let me tell you, because I want to talk about how shit actually our team is, Keeno. But I'll let you and Jack have a little say, and I'll come back in again.
I think it's just disappointing that, as you say, while our expectations weren't high, I think there was a general feeling that this sort of young team, with the players that hadn't been in 2014 but had sort of come in after fantastic seasons, I think this team was beginning to mature and sort of develop together in the right direction. And it just feels as though this last 2 years have been wasted and their development has been wasted. And who knows what will happen going into the World Cup in Russia. Players like Kane, I worry for Kane after having such a shocking game that he did. I mean, I wouldn't want to single out any individual, but his performance was so poor. I worry that for at least maybe the first few months of this coming season, he will be defined by that. And while you say, the younger players might not be defined by this failing, it may turn out to be the case, as sad as that is, because it was truly one of the worst England performances, possibly the worst loss we suffered since USA in 1950, which was the one.
It's the worst in my memory. It's the worst in my memory by far,
without a doubt.
Actually, well, no, maybe apart from the Croatia McLaren, but that wasn't actually.
Then again, though, Croatia, a decent team.
Even in 2008, they were a good side. I guess I'll quickly make the point because I've prepared notes. Essentially, this goes deeper than what we saw in this tournament. We are far worse than we actually realise, and we are told by the Premier League that we've got some of the best players in the league, and we may well do, but they're certainly not English. If you look at the teams, and the reason there's two ways to look at this, right? There's one that our management isn't good enough, and our system is not good enough. Roy actually said before the tournament, "Oh, I don't really believe in systems." Brilliant, cheers, Roy. Iceland had one player in the group stages of the Champions League. Poland had 3. Wales had 2. I think we all would agree that those 3 teams are punching slightly above their weight. I think you'd maybe give Poland a little bit more credit. They've got some talented players in that team, so maybe you'd give them, as I say, a little bit more credit.
I do feel like for Iceland, people are perhaps selling them a little bit short. This is an Iceland team, kind of knocked the Netherlands out of the qualifying.
Yeah, they wrecked the Netherlands.
They beat Austria. They beat the Czech Republic. They've beaten Turkey. They've drawn against Portugal and Hungary. I feel like, and of course they beat Austria as well. I said that, did I say that? I don't even know. The point is that I feel like this Icelandic team are a well-managed side. And that is the difference between them and England. They have a manager who gets the most out of them, plays to their players' strengths, and makes something happen. They might not have a ton of players in the Champions League, but they make stuff happen. And you can almost say a similar point about Chris Coleman at Wales. I think he gets a lot out of the team with the system he plays. It's not really a conventional system, the 3-5-2 they play with two kind of left fullbacks on the left-hand side, but it works and it's efficient and the players buy into it. I look at the England squad. I think one of them truly believed in how England were going to set up to approach that Iceland game.
Yeah, we don't have enough good players. Like Wales have 2 Champions League players and Andy King that won the league. He was a bit part for Leicester this season. Sorry, Jack, I have to be honest about it. He was a bit part for Leicester this season. They've got Ramsey and Bale, Champions League players. Germany, squads of 23. This is, folks. Germany have got 16 Champions League standard players at group stages. This is players that got to the group stages of the Champions League. Italy, we said that they had a poor team coming to this tournament. 12. France have got 13, and Kante doesn't make the list, but won the league again. Was one of the best players in the division. Croatia have 9. To point that out, Spain have 18. Portugal have 8. Off the top of your head, do you know how many we got?
1, Joe Hart.
We got 7.
Oh, okay. Well,
and then, well, I'll say
the rest
that
of them shouldn't be in the Champions League.
We've got 7. We've then got Vardy that won the league. 2 of the 7, I might add, are Jack Wilshere, that obviously didn't play in the Champions League this year, and Marcus Rashford, who also didn't really feature in the Champions League much this year.
I completely erased from my memory that United played in the Champions League stage this year.
Yeah, so you've got Rooney, Smalling, Sterling, Cahill, and Hart as the other 5. We aren't producing enough good players, and that's potentially going to be a podcast for another time. We'll save it for now. I think the final point to make, boys, before we head off, obviously, we're going to continue to make Euro podcasts. By the way, this isn't the end of
no. We're just
Euro podcast.
I thought we were just stopping. I thought that was it.
No, I'm just venting. The next man for the job, the favourite is Gareth Southgate, which I'm actually not massively against. I'm not particularly for it, but I'm not massively against it. A quick point I want to make on that is that you look at some of the best managers that have been in and around the world's game. There's an exception to the rule in Jose Mourinho that has not played at the top level, but is considered one of the top managers. In England's history, you think about the 3 managers that have done since Alf Ramsey, I should say, 3 managers that have done the best for England. Maybe definitely 2, maybe a third if you want to include Glenn Hoddle. Can you name who they are, boys? Little quiz. Point on offer.
Bobby Robson,
and the other one that did particularly well for England.
I'm not sure.
I'm going to go with Terry Venables.
Well, okay, yeah.
Semi-final of the Euros. Robson, Venables, and Hoddle, who did okay for England. We were pretty unlucky to get knocked out to Argentina, but he did relatively well. I think he came out with some credit despite some of the terrible things he said. Those 3 managers. And you can kind of include Kevin Keegan in as well, if you like. But those 3 managers, who are the most successful English managers in my book, more so than Ericsson and Capello and McLaren and Hodgson, to be another example, are the only 3 managers to have played for England, as well as managed them. Now, in recent years, Ericsson, McLaren, Capello, and Roy Hodgson they've not been in that England dressing room. And the question I'm bringing up, boys, is it time for us to go down the route that so many other national teams go down, or at least experiment with? Because since sort of, I guess, Keegan in 2000, we've not done that. And is it still in the back of the FA's mind that, look, we don't want to take that risk in appointing someone that's untried? But is it getting to the point now that you need to appoint a man that's been there, that's done it, that's felt it? And you could argue, say, oh yeah, Gary Neville was in the dressing room, but sadly he didn't have much to say because Roy Hodgson is the manager.
No.
Is it time to go with someone? And that's why I'm not massively against Southgate, because at least he's been to international tournaments with England. At least he's been a part of it. Is it time to go down that route? Because you look across Europe. Yuki Glove played internationally. Del Bosque played internationally. There's plenty of managers that are at the top of their game that have played for their national teams that get it. Didier Deschamps, World Cup winner. Like there's examples out there that maybe it's time we go down that mould. And we don't want a Sam Allardyce or I don't know, someone sort of more predictable, an Eddie Howe. You need someone that's been there. And I mean, I dare say, right, if you gave me the option right now of like Redknapp or Eddie Howe or Alan Shearer, for whatever reason, I'd take Shearer. Because I think he's been there. He gets it. He knows what it takes to be an England player.
I think I almost.
I'm going to leave it now
to
you boys to talk about the management situation.
Well, I don't
bring
disagree.
Hoddle or Keegan back. Keegan's been out of football for 8 years. So he's probably not ever. Glenn Hoddle, I'd probably take Glenn Hoddle back for 2 years, and it probably wouldn't be that bad because I think he watches the team a lot. Clearly, he knows a lot of the players.
I think that sort of post 2010, maybe a little bit before that as well, maybe after 2006, I think England, we tried to reform the way that our players are taught, sort of coming through in academies. We've seen the success of Spain and the club sides that are playing in that passing style. We've tried to replicate it a little bit, and I think we've become a little bit obsessed with trying to copy models that are successful. I think whether you look at the Germany model, that they famously reformed sort of after 2000, sort of going forward, and now they have this crop, or whether it be Spain with the way that they play, and we've now put this emphasis on, and there's a lot of scrutiny from the media on this, how much possession we have, how many passes we make, the style that we play in. I think there's a lot more emphasis on that than there used to be. And I think that the point you make about having an England man who has played for the national team, who can summon up and hopefully inspire in his players the kind of passion that we would feel and hopefully he felt in the past and we would want them to feel when going onto the pitch. I think you could definitely make a case for that, because we've seen teams, just look at Leicester this year with the team spirit that they had. I think we may have gone too far in English football and English national football in looking for that sort of elusive sort of playing style, or putting too much emphasis almost on the technicality of players. Maybe what we need is, as you say, a little bit more passion, a little bit more Englishness to inject into what are undoubtedly very technically gifted players that we now have. I don't think there's a problem in the basic technical ability of that squad. But maybe what we do need is a little bit more passion, a little bit more fire, and that may come from, as you say, having a man who's been there.
We don't need someone to come and rewrite football. We need someone to come in and say, you're good at this, do this. You're good at this, do this. Like, it's literally that simple. Roy's been unlucky in a sense that he's had to play around Liverpool and play around Tottenham in the last 2 tournaments because of how well they've done in the league in their respective seasons. But it's like, just my point with this is, why not? I mean, can it literally go any worse? The qualifying's piss easy every time, so we'll get through that. You'd hopefully expect. I'd honestly, I'd give it to Shearer for a bit. I'd give it to maybe even like Southgate. I'm a bit unsure of because I think he actually does quite a good job with under-21s. I don't dislike what he's doing there. Gary Neville would have been a contender probably, but there aren't that many players around.
I think Gary Neville's been tainted by this though.
He has. Valencia are now this. I mean, it's been a pretty shit year for Neville. Let me tell you. I bet we should stay with Sky. And I know some people listening will be going, you can't just say give it to their best player. Why should you just say give it to David Beckham because he was good? It's like, no. People that have obviously got a desire to be England manager. Shearer last night said 5 years ago he went to the FA and said, look, if you want, I'll do it. I want it. I want the job. You want people that want to do it. Not. You don't want to like be picking people out that like just sort of second rate. Like as much as sort of. People are calling for Redknapp now and stuff. It's like and Adam Pardew. Like they're decent managers, but are they that different to Roy Hodgson? Honestly, like, and again, if those two players been in a situation of being like in sort of the thick of an English tournament or like an international tournament for England, I don't think they have. And I can't believe I'm sat here after this tournament going, I'll give it Shearer to lend it 2017 or whatever. But I feel that's how I feel. I'd rather see someone that looks like they give a shit. And I tell you what, with Shearer, he's a horrible bastard most of the time, and like to the point of like he's got that aggressive streak. If that
he was pretty horrible on TV last night. Actually,
yeah, but if that England team come out and don't play well enough, I tell you what, he is bollocking them in the media, and I think that's what they need. They need to stop being these overpaid prima donna pricks and start putting in some fucking performances. I'm getting bored of it. I'm getting bored of it.
I think that's quite a nice note to finish on.
Bored. I'm walking out.
I can imagine Roy Hodgson at half time at 2-1 down gives everyone a Werther's original. Tells them all to calm down.
He's got him in his hat or something. He's
like a grandfather going around handing them all a sweetie. Someone who's going to shake them.
Well,
smash up the house around them.
On that, sorry listeners if you're not England fans, or you may have turned off by this point, but I think Ben needed that mentally. He needed it. Jack.
I think he's gone. Right, well, I'll wrap up. Thank you for watching, listeners. You can find us at For The Fans Show on Twitter, forthefanshow.com, For The Fans on YouTube. We will see you again next time. With love, with care.
Maybe one.
We're out.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Sorry about that.
No more For The Fans.
Yeah. I mean, I was more angry than I thought, actually, boys. More angry than I thought. Yeah, sorry, listeners.